Welcome to the Church of Mabus radio show. It's Friday night, 7:06 p.m. Central. We got Wham representing. That's right, up in New York. And this is the last show of the year. So we'll be back January 7th. Had some great guests. Make sure you check out the archives at paranormalradionetwork.org. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7. And check out our Wild Trees was on. That was a animal biologist, and he still never told me his real name, but for some reason he goes by a name, Elias, just because of he's like, I guess, known in that field, and he talks about UFOs a lot, so he kind of keeps it on the down low. But we got into some weird Robert Bigelow stuff on that show. And then one of the other shows that did really well was with Jesus Payon Jr. from the show Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, known as Gonzo. And he came on about Bigfoot and UFOs, and that was a real hoot. So we've just had every show's been great lately, but we've had some good ones to close out the year on, including this one. So tonight's guest, how you doing, Kimberly? Good to have you here. Kimberly McGeorge is with us here tonight. Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. How you doing, Kimberly?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
And Michelle Freed, the publicist, I met her, and let me tell you, she's been hooking us up with some interviews. Like, she gets really good guests. We've had some great guests through Michelle, so thanks to her. And had some great, sorry, the Bulldogs grabbed the coffee can thing. Getting that taken out of the picture. Well, great to have you here. I know, what do you primarily do? I know it's a smorgasbord. I see remote viewer, paranormal, so many. What are you a doctor in?
Sorry, all of a sudden you started the show and the spirits start going through my house and my dogs are like looking all over. I don't know. You're stirring something up in my house. Okay, that's an aside. So there's pretty much little I don't do in the psychic, paranormal, consciousness, frequency, energy, healing, naturopathic world. So whatever you want to talk about, I can probably go there. And I live in a habitation spot with dogmen, an ancient galactic cat, and Sasquatch, and also little people, fae, trolls, so we can go that way too. Whatever way you want to go.
Definitely. And just to give you a little background about me and my contact experiences, because I know you said you could let me know some info on that possibly. When I was 17, I had testicular cancer, and I went through chemo, and basically woke up from exploratory surgery and heard, Jeffrey, we took one, and you got to go through chemo. And tears ran down my face, and that was at 17. I went through chemo. I'm fine now, but I had to go through all that at a young age. And then a year or two later, my dad died, and I started having all these weird experiences, and from seeing beings of light leave my house in Florida here, like they were in it and just flew out through the roof and left, and seeing them in the heavens. I saw one on a cloud top, just golden beings of light, and there were witnesses and also a lot of UFO stuff. And I've seen a few different kinds of beings. Never really heard of any gray stuff until this house here. Maybe there was, and I just don't know it. But here there was definitely some gray stuff that I've seen. But that was the first time really I've had any kind of contact with those or seeing them, where you're aware of it or whatever. But a lot of the UFO stuff was over every house I moved to. It was like it followed me, and then it led to doing this show. And I even had I don't remember any really negative UFO experiences. I remember being scared because they looked like they were parked around my house, and it seemed like friends were like, Jeffrey, they're here because of you. So I dealt with a lot of anxiety. Like, I didn't want to leave, get out of the house. I didn't want to leave, except I would still go out and get a crick in my neck staring at the sky forever, many nights. But it did have some PTSD and some fears and things like that. And a few... there was a time that it seemed like in Georgia that some kind of military agency came out and knew that something was happening. And because there was a silent type helicopter vehicle over the house in a cockpit, and a man waved mockingly at us and me and a friend named Jason, and it shot up in the air and left. And was like, what the hell was that? I mean, the dude waved at us from a cockpit in an aerial vehicle over the house. But none of them ever approached me face to face or anything like that. And there was a weird time that someone put a $2,000 credit on my telephone when I said I was going to turn it off, and it appeared that maybe they did it to keep listening. And I turned my phone off anyway and spent it on land taxes and went on a shopping spree. So that probably upset them. And that made me think, well, someone's listening, because the only thing I really do that interesting is the show. Everything else is pretty boring. So that must be why they're listening. Because I had heard from some scientists that they, people that do shows like this, he said they watched me and stuff like that, which at that time I took it as a grain of salt until that 2000 credit incident happened. That was weird, because I know no one I know did that. Just a weird incident. But some of the beings that I've seen are small beings in cloaks standing near a black box, and a friend saw that with me, 3 of them, and there was a black box. A cat jumped at them and they vanished. Later that cat died somehow by the road. I don't think they did it. I don't really know. But the beings of light, there was one time where I could have sworn like some reptilian hologram type stuff. They kind of seemed like they were in another dimension or something like that. But the gray stuff here, I had started seeing some here in this current, 2021, around the grandmother when she was transitioning, because we were doing hospice care. Sometimes I can let the white light of the sun fill my body when I close my eyes, and I'll walk around the house, and it's almost like it gives you some kind of vision or different, and it seemed like I saw a gray standing in her room, and it was surprised that it saw me, and it kind of leaned, at the door. It was just really creepy. And Christina, my fiance, had saw one standing over my bed one night and things like that. So the stuff's just kind of followed me, and that's why we do the show. And I think there's been some positive ones, because at one time I was having trouble getting interviews, and I said a prayer, and I had a big, huge UFO sighting. These, I call them red fireflies. And next thing you know, I'm on the phone with Stanton Friedman and Nick Pope and Lloyd Pye, like all these famous UFO personalities, from documentaries and stuff. So it kind of seemed like I got an alien hookup or something like that. But there's been weird stuff, but mostly, the catalyst was my dad's death and cancer. It seemed like that was something to do with it too, that kind of brought on all this stuff.
Well, I can shed some light if you'd like.
Sure.
Pretty definitively. First of all, you are what we call one of the first 3 waves of consciousness. So we're all fragments of the all, of course, individually expressed, through all space and all time. And you are an extremely old soul. So your knowledge base, your psychic abilities, your frequency is higher than the majority of people. And there's a lot of non-people, of course, too, Sims and clones. But as far as the real people, you're very, very old. So almost everyone that is your age soul is at least being taken by the military and in the, I call it the not so secret space program, mockingly, of course, they love that. But you're absolutely 100%. You have a super soldier frequency. So you're a super soldier. You've been a super soldier, not just in this lifetime. You've been a super soldier they have trillions and trillions of dollars invested in you. So this is in every lifetime. You are also accessed and used in the SSP programs. So it didn't start at 17. They began abducting you under the age of 3. You've been abducted your whole life, both in daytime through the kind of technology they have. They can freeze time and take whole towns. They can take individual houses, and they can take whole states. They can take whole countries. They actually have photographs that are out there. You've probably seen them if you're in the UFO community. Some of these photographs with these little lights in the sky, and upon closer examination, they're like people wearing bed clothes. Have you seen some of those pictures? They have like thousands of little lights on their tips, and they're just pulling them up like a tractor beam, and they're like wearing their bed clothes. So you're abducted both in body, So they actually take your body, and they also transfer your consciousness into multiple clones. These clones work for different programs and different corporations, which I can tell you in a few minutes. I can pull those up. Corporations you've probably heard of, like the Umbrella Group, Monarch. We've heard of these big corporations. Um,
Yes.
you work probably Kruger. We can find out for sure in a few minutes. I can look, but
I know one thing I'm remembering is
okay.
some pyramid black craft over some power lines, and this ball of light came out of it towards me and a friend. And he doesn't. I would ask him about it later, and he doesn't remember a thing. And the dude was like right there with me, and we both saw it. So that I was remembering that as you were saying some of that stuff. Which
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure your memory wiped, although you seem to have retained quite a lot of memory. Again, a reflection of how old you are as a soul and able to probably outwit some of this technology. Probably if you were sensitive and looked at your body, you'll often wake up with bruises. A lot of the signs are like fingertip bruises, like somebody's grabbing you from standing in front of you. The bruises are like that. Or needle marks. A lot of times they'll do the upper shoulders, both upper shoulders, and and I'm sure your fiance could definitely, if you started paying attention to your body, I am absolutely sure you have signs of being regularly abducted. Um,
she has stuff like that sometimes too, and she has gifts. So definitely.
oh yeah,
I mean,
I'd be interested, even off air, if you want to send me her picture. I can tell you, what she's involved in as well, to what extent
okay.
too.
Well, I'm definitely, I mean, I've had a lot of weird stuff happen, and I definitely feel weird as hell all the time, usually, so I'm not ruling anything out. And there have been some craft that have been very low to where you're like, did I get taken? But I really don't know, but maybe I did. But there's been some weird situations, like too many times. Like it seems like they're, parked over. I know my last sighting I had here was a big pyramid type craft that was really
Wow.
weird and up in the heavens for sure. So it's definitely fascinating, and I always like to learn more about it and try to learn more about it for sure.
Well, have you heard of like the 20, 40, 60, 80 and back, where they take you at 3 and then you live a whole life like on Mars, or you work for Dark Fleet, and then they return you like a second later so nobody knows you're gone, but you live these whole adult lives. You've had children, you've been married, you've fought, what I'm saying? You've worked in their projects. You're involved in those programs. You've been age regressed even with their technology in this body, in this life. So that's why you're experiencing all this weird stuff. You're a highly valued asset of multiple corporations as well as the military.
I have interviewed Laura Eisenhower a long, long, long time ago, and I know she had a story like that. I know she's a relative to President Eisenhower and all that
Well,
stuff.
of
It was one of
course.
my
Yeah.
early interviews, back in the
Bloodline.
day.
Right. Yeah, even if you don't believe it, it's interesting. You drop it in someone's field and then they start putting pieces together, and they always get a hold of me like 3 months later and they're like, I think you're right, but sometimes when you first give this information, people don't, it's okay if they don't receive it. It doesn't change anything. People are like, how do I stop it? I'm like, you're not going to stop it. I mean, you chose to come here. It's part of the game.
Yeah, I'm not ruling anything out. I mean, a lot of the stuff Michelle told me here, I was like, okay, but I mean, some of it seems like I've seen proof of weird stuff of it. Like they said, an interstellar demon was here at first. I was like, what? Not really. But I mean,
Oh,
there's been weird
okay.
stuff. They've said they've removed some
Whoa,
stuff. So sometimes
that's
it's
a
like
big
you have this
sign.
kind of try to be open, even though part of you's like disbelief. So I try to,
Sure.
be fair with everything,
Right, right. Sure.
And I do wonder about multidimensional type stuff when you're in different realities. And there have been times where I've basically looked into the heavens and seen beings of light everywhere. And I've kind of compared it to one of those Sims games. It's like there's a reality around the earth. Maybe that's where we go when we die, like a staging area for the dead or for whoever. Maybe it's where we project when we sleep. I've looked into that and seen those everywhere. And
Yeah, I have
completely.
access to that too. I've seen that too. I believe that's the fourth density or the astral realm. So a lot we do go there temporarily, a lot of spirits, and some people stay there permanently. Some beings choose to stay. It's not a very pleasant realm overall. There's very few positive beings in the astral realm that stay there. They might be wandering through, but I wouldn't choose to hang out in the astral realm. That's not the best, most amazing. And that's why you get a lot of these stories like you're talking about of these haunting ghosts, because it's the lower frequency beings that don't know who they are, remember who they are. They don't know that they have options when they die. So they stay in the astral with the other people wandering around with no options, and they tend to get into some mischief.
Yeah, there's been a lot of strange things here for sure. Like, I mean, one night something hit our bed, and I thought something fell off a shelf, and I was up looking for a flashlight. There was nothing there. There were no pets in there. It's like something just goes
Wow.
boom and
Common.
hit the bed and freaked us out for sure.
Yep.
And I've done this show for 13 years. I have books on Bigfoot,
Wow.
aliens, and
Wow.
a lot of the books are just interviews with people, transcripts, like written interviews. But I have a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff, which probably attracts attention. I know one time Joe Resnick, the scientist, said they were watching me and they didn't like me because I wasn't patriotic, and they know how many times I flush the toilet, and I should say "God bless America" after every show, which, that's not something I'd really do, but maybe once in a while, God bless America, but after every show, like Colonel Bradshaw, I'm not going to do it probably. But there's been some weird stuff. That's when that credit happened, around that time too, when he told me that. So that was kind of creepy.
Well,
For sure.
you know that a long time ago, I don't know if it was the 80s or 90s, but they had that movie Enemy of the State. And they
Yeah.
show us in that movie, and also what's that? There's a series called A Person of Interest. They show us their technology in those types of shows where they have all those little screens and the faces. I mean, they know you can't sneeze and they don't know. I mean, they know where you are in your home. I mean, a lot of us have, direct satellite weapons aimed at the whole population, mind control, mind wiping. I mean, they know where we all are. I mean, I'm under no illusion. It's funny because, the whole targeted individual gang stalking thing, definitely that goes on in my life. But I'm not one of these that thinks I'm the only one. I mean, we're all being watched, we're all being monitored. They know where we are. If they want to find us, they'll find us. But really, the benefit of being who you are, being an asset, that's been an asset for so long, is you're probably more well protected than, and even like that $2,000 is a good example, than the average next door neighbor, because they have a reason to keep you alive. They have a reason to make sure you're okay, versus somebody who's not an asset, and not being contacted and used.
Definitely. And I'm trying to think. I've had some different being things that I'm trying to remember. One was really weird. It looked like a fat little Buddha statue you'd see in a Chinese restaurant, but really in
Oh,
your backyard, but alive. That was one that was kind of weird. During
wow.
that time,
I've never seen
I
anything
was
like
on
that.
Bermuda
Wow.
Street in Georgia. There was a lot of silver weird lights in the trees that would light up and
Yep.
stuff, like
I've
something
seen
was in
those.
it.
Yep. Yep.
That's
I've
maybe the
got
leaf
pictures of
fall.
those. Yep.
And
Um,
something came to the windows with blinking lights, and I wondered if it was like head visors or something, like they were blinking in the windows.
ooh.
That
I've
seemed
had
like a
I've had friends that have had lasers on them, on the shows where they're like freeze and you're like no, and then you look down and there's like a laser. I've had
yeah.
people that have had lasers that they think, now I don't know, I wasn't there, but they said there were like SWAT guys like laid and they put lasers on them. You talk about intimidation. You can't get any more intimidating than that. Come on now. That's pretty
That's
intimidating right
creepy.
there.
That,
Super
that's like
creepy.
those creepy stories where jerks call the police on online gamers to get even, and then they get shot or something by accident. When they send cops to their house or something. I forget
Oh,
what it's
that's
called.
right. I've heard about that. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
that's
that's
creepy.
ugh.
Chilling and playing a game, and next thing you know, a SWAT team breaks into
Yeah,
your
that's
house and
super
kills you
creepy.
by accident. I forget what
That's
they
super
call it.
creepy.
It's something like that. Something where they prank and do something, or it's crazy for sure. But well, I know my friend Jerry Avalos said that he had some kidnapped stuff happen to him, and he was remembering and going through hypnosis. I've thought about hypnosis before. I just never, had an opportunity to do it. I've read some
Oh
books
my
on
gosh, they
yeah,
love you. Oh my gosh, I think you would be easily go under and spill a lot. I think it'd be interesting. like soul regression, that
Yes.
type, or hypnosis, either one. I think you do really well.
I'd have to find someone that I trust. I know there's some creepy stories about that stuff,
I
so I have to be
know you
careful for
do.
sure.
You do have to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I know from a shamanic perspective, we've had a lot of people on about that subject, and when they talk of the soul retrieval and stuff, which is similar to what you're talking about, it's
Sure.
called soul
Sure.
retrieval,
Yes.
and that sounds interesting. Where you, I guess, get back particles of your lost soul that you lost from wherever they went, or they flew away. But I've had a lot of people on about that. Those are some fascinating subjects. One thing, I have a book on Bigfoot, and it's called Praise for the Hairy Man: The Secret Life of Bigfoot. I wrote it with Andrew
Oh,
Colvin. But I noticed that, you have a lot of, you said you have a Sasquatch situation, right? I find
yeah.
that so
Well,
fascinating.
you know what's funny though? Everybody's like, "How long have you studied Bigfoot?" I'm like, it's not really a choice. So you know how people, want to go seek it out, and it becomes a hobby, and it wasn't like that for me. I didn't have a choice. They came to me and made themselves known through Seaway and Wilson, and it all started one day. I was bored watching videos on YouTube, and we all know you start watching something, and who knows what you're going to end up watching, an hour later. And, Bigfoot videos are really cool because even though I don't agree or subscribe to this theory of Bigfoot, I was watching all the men in the woods and camouflage, going through, and they're just about to find him. And so it's the excitement because I actually didn't know a lot about Bigfoot. So I was stupid enough to think like they're going to round the bend on their ATV and he's going to be standing there, in his full glory. But, so I kept watching these videos and I'm like, these are stupid. They're like, oh, a twig snapped. Oh, this, and they're like, that's Bigfoot. And I'm like, are you
Yeah,
people dumb? Like, come
a
on,
lot
guys.
of them
Are
are
you
very,
dumb?
very, a lot of them are very silly for sure.
Yeah, they're very, very silly. So I finally stumbled upon this guy, C. Wayne Wilson, and he lives about an hour away from me. And his video, and I have this site. I don't see 100% of the time. I mean, my site's better now, even because I've been developing it. But my daughter sees 100% of the time. But I see
That
ghosts.
dude's
I
on
see a
my
bunch.
friends list. That guy's on my friends list.
Oh, really? He is?
On
Oh, okay. So
Facebook.
you know who I'm
He,
talking about.
he's friends
So I
with
was
Stacy
watching.
Stacy Brown. Yeah, I know
Yes, yes,
Stacy
yes,
Brown.
yes. Well, actually, I'm in his. I forget what it's called. My Journey with Monsters. I inadvertently got to be in that video. I never meant to be in that video, but anyway, me and Baby Boo behind me are part of the stars of that show. But anyway, yeah, I know Stacy. He's been to my home and we filmed together quite a few times. But yeah, so I'm watching these videos on Wayne, and he's like, "Do you see this female Bigfoot?" And I'm like, "I didn't even know there. This is stupid. I didn't even know there were female Bigfoot at the time." And he's like, "Look at her breasts and look at the babies." And this is also stupid. I'm like, "There's baby Bigfoot? Like, I didn't even know this stuff, you guys." I'm just like dumb. I guess I just thought they were male. And so I started looking at these videos. I'm like, this guy is like off the bend, wacko crazy, insane. And then all of a sudden, I started seeing with my eyes what he was describing. I'm like, oh no, I'm wacko crazy too. So I'm like, well, we can solve this wacko crazy problem. I'm just going to call Wayne up and go to his house. Then I'll see in person, you know what I'm saying? No film
Yeah.
altering. And so I pulled up to his house and he runs out of his house and he turned me around. He goes, look at that field. He goes, they're all lined up in the field. They knew you were coming. And it was a still hot summer day. And there was this branch swinging and there was like a juvenile swinging on the branch. Blew my mind. And so at that time, I thought Bigfoot were like just at Wayne's house. But I went home and I started seeing them. I lived by woods in my house and all around in downtown Winston-Salem. And I mean, I believe that they live actually in the fourth density or dimension. And that's why only certain people can see them. And they think they're going, they only find like one footprint or all that stuff. I think they actually live totally among us, but most people just can't see them. I think more people are seeing them, though. I think people are waking up. I think their abilities are getting stronger. Even people that don't think they have abilities, I think there is an awakening happening of some level, on the planet. But anyway, that's my story of how I was kind of forced into a relationship, because once I went to Wayne's house and kind of had that sight open to that frequency and tuned to them, I started seeing dogmen, Bigfoot, trolls, gnomes, fairies, everything, and it all just poured in.
I've watched the trailer for his movie, and I know at first it does kind of seem like this dude's wacko, but then you really, I guess, get into it more, which I try not to be that judgmental, but that's the way they kind of present it at first in that documentary, sort of. So I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but he's on my friends list. Stacy's been to my house too before, and we've hung out. They wanted me to go out there in the woods and stuff. I was like, no, thanks. I'll die out there.
You would be a great person to go out with. I'm sure you would be like a mecca. You attract everything. Probably get some really good.
It's Florida. It'd have to be cold. The heat here would kill me for sure. The humidity.
Yep.
It's like Vietnam.
I've never been tempted to go to Florida because we have heat here and it's moist enough. But I heard like Florida's really humid.
What state is that? That's where that Wade lives too.
Yeah, North Carolina. Mm-hmm.
North Carolina. Okay. I may have whitewater rafted through there one time with a church or something a long time ago. I passed through on a tube.
I love whitewater rafting. It's fun. When I was young and stupid, I went on the Snake River in Wyoming. That's a trip. That's real whitewater rafting there.
Yeah. And so what do you think now Bigfoot is? A lot of people, say Nephilim. I mean, there's different theories, and I don't really know myself, but there's so many different theories that you hear.
Yeah, and I always say nobody has a corner on the truth, including me. So I only know what I know now, and I change my mind, as I'm sure I think any mature person probably has changed their mind about things. Definitely, I don't think they're Nephilim. I just think they're and you've seen other beings. You've talked about that Buddha being that you saw, So I don't think, and we can read from India, the Vedas talk about like 5,000 different type of interdimensional encrypted creatures. So I think there's this whole world in these other dimensions and in ours that we're just blocked. We block ourselves from seeing. We're not allowed to see. We're programmed not to look or not to see and to explain it away. I don't think the powers that be want us to activate our psychic abilities and realize how powerful we are, because we create our own reality. And if we all turn on our abilities and realize that we can run the show instead of them, this game changes. So I think they do everything they can to stop that from happening. So what do I think they are? I just think they're like you and I. You would say we're human. I would say they're no different than a squirrel or a dog or a cat. I mean, they are, because they're more intelligent, of course. But I'm saying they're just another race of beings that we haven't been taught or allowed to know exist. And one of the theories I've heard, and I'm kind of a fan of this theory, is that all the national and state parks, if you want to go find any of these creatures, Dogman, Bigfoot, underground tunnel entrances, military base entrances, holographic base entrances, I don't really recommend this. I'm being a little facetious, but go to the state and national parks, because it's not about the lands that the people can camp and hike and have fun. It's not about that. It's about protecting and giving these creatures a habitat of wilderness, instead of like cities and populated areas where they can kind of disappear. And that's why a lot of people's first encounters, if you would do a spreadsheet of first encounters, pretty verifiable by pretty sane people with some evidence, even like, Quantum Bigfoot, is it Ron Moore? Is that
Ron Moorhead?
Yeah, Ron Moore. He's out, in the middle of a park in the high Sierras, where people aren't. So, and he has some of the best vocal evidence I've ever heard in my entire life, of these creatures. So, again, they're everywhere. I believe, I have pictures of them looking in my house. Wayne has pictures of them looking in our house. If you go in some of the Bigfoot groups on Facebook, you guys can say whatever you want. I've stopped showing a lot of my pictures. I have Class A pictures. I have I'll send it to you privately. I think I have one of the best pictures of a little person, and oddly enough, he's wearing a cloak and dressed in battle garb. I've never seen a picture that I have on my security camera. He came to my back door when I first moved in here for 3 nights. And, people say it's so good. People say I put a G.I. Joe figure out there. That's how good my picture is. They think I'm hoaxing it. And I'm not a hoaxer. I don't make my living doing this. I have a successful business designing medical technology and writing frequencies and teaching. I don't make my living. I have no reason to hoax. You know what I'm saying? I don't. So then I get mad because I'm not a hoaxer. And I get mad for these beings that are trusting me to bring them to the public. And then people just, rip me to shreds, which, I mean, you've done your show for 13 years. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I'd like to see that for sure. It sounds interesting. Little people, very fascinating. We talked about them, and what's so neat about them is in so many cultures, they're there. Norse, Native,
Yes, I agree with you. So
Swedish,
many.
or whatever. They're
Yes,
everywhere. They're in
yeah,
everything. So makes
absolutely.
sense. And I did see them little cloak people with a black box, which I'll never
Yeah,
forget that ever.
that's
That
so
was weird. I'll
interesting.
never forget that for sure. That could have been little people. I don't know what they were.
That's what I thought when you first told that story. I thought of my guy in warrior garbs, that I have the picture of. I'm going to send it to you. I want to see if that's anything like what you saw. I want to kind of, bounce that
Sure.
off.
I'll check it out. And during that time, I had been reading books about the Celtic Otherworld by DJ Conway and some different stuff like that. And I remember reading that kind of stuff around that time. And those kind of books seem like they bring on experiences. There was one night I had been reading that DJ Conway, Lord of Light and Shadow, and there's actually, this is kind of a weird, I know somewhere in it there's this weird like sacrifice thing where this is kind of weird, but they
Right.
do something like a Wicker Man kind of thing. I don't know if it's
Okay.
that bad, but it has something to do with a king losing one of his testicles. I swear to God, I read that,
Oh
and I
my
was like,
gosh.
and I had that happen at 17, so that story just was kind of weird.
Good.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I had been reading that book, and one night, and at that Bermuda Street in Georgia, I looked out my window, and I swear under a street light, I saw a man that looked like he kind of had a dragon head, but humanoid, a
Wow.
floating guru, kind of like bald man, like he was levitating, and a blonde haired woman. It looked like something out of Dungeons and Dragons or something, but I woke my brother up and he claimed he saw it too. And they were
Wow.
just standing under the street light. And that's one of my weird ones. I think I talk about that in Kim Carlsberg's book, one of my book. There's a book with my
Were
experiences
they
written in there. But that
What were
was
they doing? Were they looking up at you or were they just there? Like, do you think they were in another dimension or do you think they were in this dimension? Do you have any impression of,
I think they were
what?
in another dimension, or maybe they were just popping into this one so I would see them. It seemed like they were there so I could see them, maybe, because I mean,
Oh,
I
so they
don't,
were there for you. Okay.
I mean,
That
I
was
don't
your
really
impression.
know, but that's my impression. I mean, it was just one of those weird things, and it's
Man,
strange
I
when,
used to hang out with you. You need to come to my house. You have the site. You'd be like, I'll tell you everything that's here. They'd come knocking on the door for you. I love it.
mine's. I've seen some things lately, but it seems like it's calmed down some, and then a lot of times you don't really want it to. You're like, I want to see stuff, and then you don't. So, I mean, I guess there's been some stuff here with the gray aliens and stuff, but I like my light beam ones. I'm more comfortable with those. Not big, tall, weird mantis gray aliens.
Oh, yeah, the mantas. I don't like the mantas. There's a lot of click. They make clicky noises. The mantas used to be around me a lot when I was young. I grew up thinking like furniture taps, and then I found out that's the mantis. They click, and I'm like, okay.
We've
So
had
I
some
thought it was
chaps.
so weird. My furniture in my room would would like click. It is not, but it wasn't. It was them being around. So kind of weird.
There's been some stuff like that too, knocks and things like that. Well, that gray that Christina saw, she said it kind of seemed like it had like a bug, like kind of mosquito kind of face, and so it looked really
Ooh.
creepy. And for some reason, it was standing over the bed. But I've wondered too, because of me and her energy, if there's things that feed off of it, like parasitical
Oh,
things.
for
Because
sure.
I know
Absolutely.
Michelle said there was something she called a golem that she kept removing that would try to like start
Yeah.
fight,
I'm
feed
getting
off drama
chills.
in the house
Oh,
and stuff like
wow.
that. But and sometimes I feel a lot of awkward things. So I don't know if it's just me picking up on something, trying to,
No, golems
teach me.
are the golem. I can't believe she found that because a lot of people don't know about that. Like I said, she's the real deal. I don't say that very often because not that many people necessarily are the real deal, but she's the real deal. But golems are commonly found in the fields, particularly of time travelers. So if you're an SSP and you're a super soldier, you're a time traveler. So you pick up these parasitic creatures. The golems are just kind of, they're in a lot of realms, they're in a lot of bases, they're in a lot of places. It's easy to get. So I bet that's 100% true.
Definitely, and said it was in the rafters, and it kept coming back. So lately, she said
Yep.
it was clear. It seemed like the mother left, and that helped a lot. But lately, with all this stress and stuff, I'm just making sure nothing's coming here to feast. I've heard stories of, like, I guess kind of like I don't know if it was Men in Black or something, like they'll these certain beings that will find houses and kind of come there and feed and attach to things and feed, and they just kind of travel around and look for it. Plus, this area is just weird. There's a elderly home right across the street, very
Oh,
close.
wow.
There was supposedly a native burial mounds that had been disturbed here. That's what Michelle said. And there's a lake the uncle dug up and stuff. So it's just a weird area. It's a beautiful house, but I'm kind of glad to be leaving it. It's always just felt kind of, I don't know, like just like it's almost like you feel weird frequencies here that are uncomfortable all the time. I don't know if it's on the ley line. I don't know if they're shooting them at us. I don't know what it is, but it's just kind of an unsettled. Ugh. And all this moving definitely seems to have stirred it up to where it just feels kind of paralyzing. It just feels crappy.
Yeah. It does feel a little heavy where yeah, it does feel a little heavy over there. I just think there's a lot of energy. It's not necessarily, as you pointed out, all negative, but is it an older home though? Because there's a lot of, frequencies layer into the walls. So, for example, a brand new home is going to have less layering, of course, than a home that's been lived in, because every single word that's spoken, every single sound is a frequency and it all gets stuck in the walls. They have technology they've had forever in the spy world where they have these machines and they used to draw, have their spies, go infiltrate and they can pull out any conversation, and they can still do this just faster now. But they can pull out any conversation anywhere by the frequency of your voice. So anywhere you've been, they can go there, like the post office or the grocery store, and they have your frequency. They just have to like dial it up and they can pull out every word you've ever, because you have your own individual frequency of your voice that is no one else's. And so that happens in houses. So there's fighting, there's murder, there's rape, there's incest, there's violence, there's beating, there's child abuse, there's all this, there's animal abuse, and all this stuff gets stored. It doesn't even have to be like a murder, but all this stuff gets, the negative energy and positive energy gets stored in the walls. So depending who lived there and what type of life they lived, what music they played, what their family life was like, that can all influence the mood of a house. So people think it's
Yes.
just about spirits when you go shopping for a house. It's not. The house has its own frequency, its own energy. It can be neutral, positive, or negative. But a lot of times people are misreading and thinking it's just the spirits. And then, of course, if you're in a negative house, like possibly you are, it feels pretty heavy to me. You're going to attract that negative frequency, is going to be a beacon to the vampiric, parasitic, darker energies. And then
Yes.
we haven't even talked about portals. So a lot of times, and you're a person that can open portals because you're a time traveler and you're very powerful, way more powerful than you know. So you can inadvertently open portals. And again, there's neutral portals where both bad and good come through. There's negative portals where only negative beings come through. And then there's positive portals where only positive beings come through. And it feels like, I don't know if Michelle said this, but definitely there were some portals open in that
She said
home.
there
I
was
don't
a
know if
portal. There was a portal for sure.
yeah.
Michelle said that here. Uh, definitely, definitely some weird stuff here for sure. That just feels weird. Like I don't know. I heard that there was something with the uncle in a land dispute a long time ago. Someone might have got whacked or something. I don't know if that's true. It's been around. How old's this house? Like 20 years, 20 years. Yeah. And it's kind of weird. Like there's weird geometric, kind of like the structure is just different. They made it like there's a lot of weird stuff here that's different for sure. Like just the roofs and stuff are kind of articulate and stuff. It's like a $300,000 house, but there's a lot of like archaeological things here that are kind of weird, like just the structuring and stuff and things like
That's
that.
interesting.
Sounds really weird here too, like
Hmm.
sound carries. But I remember this one thing I'm remembering right now. Me and my brother were in a yard in Florida, Silver Lake, and it seemed like there was like an invisible drone or craft in the yard making the trees blow, and you could hear it. And it was
Wow.
like it was flying around the yard, but you couldn't see it. And it wasn't a helicopter. It
Sure.
wasn't someone with a neighbor with a drone or anything. It was something like almost stealth in the yard. And I remember that just recently. That was kind of creepy. It was like there was something in the yard, but you couldn't see it making the trees blow, but you heard it.
Wow.
I don't know what that was, but I just remember that. And there's another one I'm remembering, Kingsport, Tennessee. There was a large craft, and it seemed like smaller crafts were going into it and docking. And I am remembering that. I don't know if it was alien or military, but I did see it, and I was like, "What in the heck is that?" Like it looked like something off, Star Trek or Star
Yep.
Wars or something,
Yep.
but in
Hmm.
Kingsport sky. So that was kind of weird,
Wow.
and maybe it was something military, a reasonable explanation, but definitely. I have a lot of times I don't think about any of this stuff and it just pops up and you remember it. It's definitely interesting for sure. No doubt about it. Uh, so, I mean, what's with all these, let's say, super soldiers? And I know I interviewed Aaron McCullum once. I don't even know if that dude's still around. Like, he
Yeah, I don't
claimed
either.
something with dolphin hybrids and stuff. And at first, when you hear it, you kind of giggle about it. But then he gets into it, you're like, well, it sounds like he went through something. That's pretty crazy. But I've
Right.
interviewed him a long time ago. I haven't heard of that. I don't even know. Hopefully, he's still
Interesting.
alive. Aaron McCullum. I have to look
I'm gonna
him
look
up.
that
But
up. Yeah, I'm
it's
gonna
been
look
a
that
while.
up too.
It was
Look
Aaron
that up.
McCullum back in early days.
Early
Things have
day.
just been so weird lately. The golden oldie days. But just remembering lately, a lot of people have been dying from COVID, and some of them been on the show, like Robert David Steele. He kind of,
Really? Oh my gosh.
yeah, former CIA. He was on the show once, and he unfortunately, back then he wasn't into all that. He would go to rallies and say COVID's not real and stuff, and the next thing you know, he died from COVID, which is kind of not good. But there's been a few like that. Another one I've never interviewed, Russ Dysdar. He sent me his book.
Oh, good old Russ. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
I would have liked to have interviewed him, but something happened and I didn't. But he did send me a book once that's really weird called Black Awakening, and it's something about
I
like
read it.
satanic serial killers awakening and like
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
basically, he describes one branch of the programs, but he kind of makes it religiousizes it. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't tell it in its purity. He kind of cloaks it with a lot of like religion, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think said weird anti-COVID stuff, and then he died from it too. So it's just kind of weird how that happens. But I would have liked to interview him. But that book, I never read it all, but I knew a little bit about it, and it was definitely creepy. It was like satanic serial killer terrorist cells awakening or something crazy like that. Which there may be
Pretty
truth to that with
something.
shooters and stuff.
That's the whole book. You just said it. Yep. You said it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
definitely creepy for sure. But I mean, like when a shooter awakens and does crazy stuff out of school, that could be considered that, or whatever, just weird stuff like that. But Scott Mortis passed, and I don't think he was anti-COVID, but I don't know if he died from COVID. But he was on about lake monsters and stuff. It's kind of sad that he
Oh,
passed.
that's interesting.
Yeah, he
Oh.
would go out there and hunt them with his boat. This
Did he
guy,
get did he
Scott
get
Mortis.
pictures or evidence or like
I don't know.
sonographs or
I'm sure he had something, but I don't. I'm sure it's out of sight or something like that. I know he had some
oh,
kind of
okay.
evidence. Uh, well, uh, well, we're going to my mom's now, and maybe an RV. But I know down the road from there, there's a weird native Catholic crazy thing that happened, like a small village that I guess religious kind of murder happened or something, because they give you like a little pamphlet about it.
Oh,
It's
that's
right down the road.
lovely.
It's kind of creepy. So I can't wait.
You're
But
gonna have some fun there then, probably.
yeah,
That's great.
I call that little village Little House on the Prairie. It's like these little houses when you look in them, and they have pioneer stuff and butter churners and stuff like that, and syrup
Oh, you're gonna
makers and
have
things like
fun.
that.
You're gonna be visited. You're gonna be seeing some stuff. That's my
Hopefully
prediction.
so. Hopefully so. I'd like to see a Bigfoot. Never seen one, so I'd
You
like to check
haven't
it
seen
out.
that. Jeffrey, I just ask them. Ask them to show themselves. They'll show themselves to you.
I'm always like, why do you show yourself to dudes that want to shoot you? Like these dudes,
Exactly. Like, come on.
not that they can maybe be shot, but
I don't think they can
like
be shot, but people
they
say they
seem
can.
more. I think
I
there's
don't know.
paranormal elements to them
Right.
and things like that, for sure. And so I guess I mean, it's interesting what you're saying. I'm definitely, I'll think about it, not ruling anything out. It is strange when you've seen craft and it seems like they're there for you, and I don't try to be an egomaniac or anything, but when they're over your house, it does kind of seem like that.
This is what I say about super soldiers, because if you watch the super soldiers talk, they're like, it reminds me of a woman like flipping hair. They're like, I'm a super soldier. I'm so important. I'm so amazing. And I just did a video about this. I'm like, you poor thing. If you're a super soldier, you've been tortured, you've been used, you've been abused, you've been mind wiped, you've been augmented, there's nothing. You've been raped. You poor thing. You shouldn't be out there being like, I'm a super soldier, because there's so much trauma with that, and well, number one, everybody's nervous systems are screaming on the entire planet. Everybody has so much unresolved trauma that we work with. And then if you're a super soldier, you're just like one of the most traumatized people on the planet. Plus your memory wiped on top of it, so you're like totally sunk. So it's not something to go around. And you aren't. You don't have that attitude. But and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are very egotistic. They act like they're special. Really, you're tortured. You're not special. It's not a positive. It's a negative.
You have to use discernment with that for sure, like with many things there, because I mean, I'm sure there's fakes out there or whatever, flakes or whatever.
Totally. Plants, tons of plants. They don't want people to know the truth about the program. They want to mislead and divert. Controlled opposition is a real thing. I mean, that's ancient spycraft. Come on.
So, what's your readings on? Can you read anything on Wham? What is Wham doing?
Well, I didn't.
She's here. She's just chilling. She usually jumps in when she wants to, but right now
I'm just chilling.
She's in the Hudson Valley and has a lot of UFO
and
native groups near the Hudson Valley.
There's a lot of paranormal activity in the Hudson Valley.
Yes, I wrote a book about it that I published 2 years ago. So,
what's it called?
Mysterious Beauty: Living with the Paranormal in the Hudson Valley.
Oh, I'm gonna get that. That sounds awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Can you share? I know this isn't my show, but I'd love to hear. I mean, what are some of your major categories of paranormal experience?
I include everything: UFOs, ghosts, of which there are tons, cryptids, little people, time displacements.
Love it. Wow.
Other kinds of just odd stuff. I mean, there are things that have happened that I've gotten reports about, like in Pine Bush during the height of its activity in the 1990s. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that has been reported. I just got a report in from Ithaca about a series of weird things that happened this last August. It's one of the strangest stories I've ever heard, but it does have parallels with other things, and it has some very interesting UFO footage, which is unusual, but capable of being analyzed. The gym where I go to work out is haunted. We've got excellent photos and footage of poltergeist activity and other things. going on there. So it's just the gamut of things. You know, I've experienced a variety of things. I mean, I live in a house that has spirits that walk through it all the time.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm just used to it, and I just don't worry about it. And you know, like Jeffrey said, I've had lots of experiences. I talk about them sometimes I don't. And you know,
you're super old too, though. No wonder you guys like hang, because you're another super old ancient galactic being, you know, in a human body. So I'm not surprised you're into all that, and people trust you and come to you, and you seem very, very in tune and psychic yourself.
I suppose. I don't know. I consider it all to be pretty normal, so I don't think about it very much.
Well, and that's a sign of. I mean, that just kind of shows who you are. Yeah, and that's how I am. You know, sometimes I go out in the real world and I'm like, oh my gosh, like everybody, it's like so immersive, and it's, you know, happened since childhood. So, and you know, I know what you mean by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, so, you know, I'm just been listening to you talk, and just, you know, I have a move of mind that I don't really care what conspiracies are out there. I don't really care what the plans are. I know what my plans are, so I just don't really care what anybody else is doing.
Sure.
And I know when it comes to remote viewing, there's just so many different ways to look at it. There's military stuff that we know they've used remote viewers for the military, like, you know, let's say to bomb a place, or for terrorists. Who knows what they've used them for? But there's also weirder stuff, like some of the weirder stuff that I came across is Courtney Brown stuff, which is a doctor. I think he's a doctor, Emory University, Atlanta. He put out some books called Cosmic Explorers. There's another one, and he's in there claiming that these remote viewers are remote viewing reptilian bases on the earth. And I'm like, this dude's still a doctor at Emory University and putting out this weirdness. But I'm not saying he's not true, but there's just different levels, you know. And I know Michelle and some other people have used remote healing, and I believe in it. I think there's something to it. It's fascinating on many different levels, from the, you know, weird military stuff to whatever. I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the levels that, when did you first get kind of introduced to that, and what are some of the levels that you use with it?
Yeah, again, kind of a non-choice. Like, you know, Wham was saying, you know, just a part of my experience here, how I experience reality, which I do want to point out that, you know, we're so quick to judge each other for how we experience reality, but we each have our own micro reality, you know, down to who we choose to live with, whether we have pets or not, what city we live in, what jobs we take. I mean, whether we're religious or not. I don't think it's our place to judge anyone for their, you know, kind of like what Wham was saying, their reality. You know, I enjoy my reality, and I don't really care what people think, you know, kind of like Wham. But, you know, as a child, I lived outside of Chicago, and I didn't know it was called remote viewing, of course. But, you know, I remote viewed very, very young. I would take naps, and the ceiling would open up, and I would see what I believe is the multiverse, and I would see stargates, very similar to the science fiction shows, with beings guarding them. And I would go through different ones and sometimes experience horrible things, sometimes experience wonderful things. I would, you know, hear the sirens around Chicago, and I would go view suicides and murders and accidents and crimes. And this is when I was 3, 4, and 5 years old. So I didn't know that was remote viewing. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have a choice. I didn't think I have a choice. Now I have control over my abilities. But back then, it was just part of my reality, pleasant or unpleasant. It was just what I thought everyone experienced. I thought everybody experienced reality like I was experiencing. How do you know? At 3, you are your own universe, which is actually how it always is. We just get programmed out of that belief. But you know, so I didn't know there was anything called remote viewing. I didn't know you could learn remote viewing either. I mean, I know now, of course, and I've taught remote viewing the military style way like Michelle does, but I just still use it. I just go there. There's no method.
What were some of your helping the police experiences with remote viewing?
Now that wasn't okay. That wasn't remote viewing. That was more psychic abilities. That was more, well, I guess it was remote viewing, but I don't, kind of in a combination of like knowledge, just knowing where to find. I can't explain how it happens, but I would know, where to find things or where to dig or where to look or what area. Just psychic abilities, I guess, what I would consider normal, psychic abilities. But I developed quite a reputation on campus, and I happened to live in an area when I was in college that had a lot of occult crimes. And in the 80s, they were just experimenting and beginning very low budget with the occult divisions of some of the bigger police forces, including in Chicago. And so definitely not, a high paid or fame type of, ghost whisperer medium type of thing. More like, hey, could you come and look at this for us? Very down low, very casual. I didn't even know if I could be of any assistance, but I did help them on a couple occasions. But it was for a 21-year-old girl, it was very grisly, very creepy, very eerie, very overwhelming. It wasn't really something I wanted to continue doing, to be honest with you. I mean, I wanted to have fun. I'm in college. I don't want to go traipse around with the police looking for people who mutilate animals and babies. Sorry. Not my idea of a good time. Now I kind of wish I'd done a little more, because I think I would have learned more how to master my abilities by having that real world. Obviously, when you're working with the police, there's no, when you're giving a psychic reading, you can kind of twist it and turn it, and they can be like, oh, you're partially right. But when you're saying dig here, there's either a body or there's not a body. You know what I mean? There's no, you're either right or wrong. It's a very good balance for psychic abilities is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that, seeing that, working with murders and stuff can get to you after a while, I'm sure, It's like the detective that starts to unravel, like in the movies and stuff from all the murders and stuff like that.
And I'm not religious now, but back then, my dad's a pastor, and back then it was all angels and demons. Like everything was like, it was either like, heavenly or it was like satanic. And now I know there's a whole, as we both know, there's a whole lot of things that you can't really put in those categories. It's not that simple, is what I'm saying,
With the reptilian experiences I had on Halloween night at a lake with some friends, and we have been partying and doing crazy stuff, but I seen reptilian beings, and they were kind of reminded me of pictures I saw of Mayan gods, and they were just weird. Like one seemed like a hydra, one seemed kind of humanoid, and it was weird because when I first saw them, I was like, oh my God, it's the devil. It's a fallen angel. That was my first thing. But it was weird because they were like saying, I love you, and to write and stuff like that, like in dance. And it's like, I'm not dancing, but hey, but anyway, it was just weird. But I just remember in my head, the process I went through at first. I was like, oh my God, this is the Faustian type situation. Oh my God, what's happening? And that's from growing up in Georgia, with my dad.
Oh, yeah, you grew up in the Bible Belt, too. Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Now I'm in Florida, but my dad had preached and stuff like that, too, as well.
Oh, really? Oh, my gosh, that's crazy. Wow. Okay.
So my first thought,
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and he's passed now, but I think some of those beings of light sightings are connected to him on some level. And I just remember seeing those, and you do go through this thought process of, oh my God, it's a demon. And, it's just, I don't know what to think of them anymore. I think there were some kind of reptilians, but if they were that terrible, I would be dead. And then I'm still alive. So obviously they're not that terrible.
Again, I have many pictures of Dracos and reptilians because there's a lot here, and in human form or in holographic human form. And I'm able to take the camera and kind of strips I don't know why, probably because I have the sight. It just does something weird when I take pictures of them. But I have a lot of pictures of reptilians. And and I've talked, I believe, to many. I think we all have. We just don't know it. I think there can be good. I'm putting that in air quotes because it's such a duality world here. But I think it's just like humans. There's murders, there's rapists, there's molesters, there's thieves, and then there's beautiful human beings. I think the reptilian race, the Bigfoot race, the Dogman race, the fairy. I don't think we tend to lump them together, but they're all individual beings with free will and their own personality. And I know from some of my memories of the Draco and the reptilians, and there's many people again say reptiles, but you've been describing some of the very common different varieties, the kinds with the crocodile faces. You've described some other kinds. So again, just like people, reptilian is not one look or one picture. You've even illustrated through your descriptions, and I've seen many different kinds in my pictures. There's a wide variety and a wide variety of different personalities. So yours may just have really been wanting to have fun and hang out and chill and party with you. Totally
I know Dr. Torrey, Turi, he's been on Coast to Coast about Nostradamus and stuff.
I know him. Yep, familiar.
Said I had a golden Draco that hung around me and showed me stuff. And he said that one night, and I was just like, what? But it is weird when I do see stuff, it feels like something touches you and shows you. Like when you see the beings of light in the heavens, it's almost like I call it the hand of God touching you, and you see it, and then you go out later maybe and look, and it feels like you can't see it, and it's dull, and when you had seen that beauty, like a masterpiece in a painting and beings of light earlier, it's almost like something is shut, like it's the sight, I guess, or something like that.
No,
and
I
let's
know
say
what
you
you
go
mean.
out later
Yeah.
and it's dull. You're like, well, I guess that's gone.
No, I know what you mean. Jeffrey, when you
Yes.
are in the presence of those beings of light, how do you feel emotionally? Because I've experienced beings of light 2 or 3 times, and it has been the most amazing experience emotionally, like feeling wise. Like I feel like I'm connected to like the highest dimensions, like if there was anything like heaven, like so pure, so beautiful. Did you have any feelings, or are you just more
There was
observing
no
them?
fear. There was no fear. It was more like a shock and an awe. And it was almost like there have been times where they seemed like they were trying to communicate. Like
Yeah, I
one time,
agree.
me and a friend named Matt were going down this road, and we were doing party stupid stuff in my younger days. And we pulled over on the side of the road, and we both saw this being of light standing on a cloud top, and it was doing its finger kind of like no, no, no. And maybe it meant him driving. I don't think he was drinking, but he was definitely doing something. It may have been psychedelics or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But it was like saying naughty, naughty, naughty almost. And we saw it on the cloud top. We're like, do you see that? Do you see that? It's almost like, Dumb and Dumber or something. but you see this big, giant, being of light just standing on a cloud top. So I've had things like that, and it's an awe. Like I've never really felt fear with those. It's more like just this weird, surprise or shock, like a good shock, sort of. But
Right, like
weird.
a powerful presence. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know there's these books, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers.
I haven't read that. Have you read
It's
that?
really good. It's by this lady. I think she's a singer. Her brother died, and he came to her as a being of light. And she kind
Oh,
of
wow.
described like that heavens, like we were talking about, and all the beings there. And I
Oh,
came
yeah.
across that later, and it was very similar to what I had experienced. But
Oh,
Annie Keegan or something, she's a singer or something, but her brother died, I think maybe from heroin or something. And he came to her in many different
wow.
synchronicities and a being of light and stuff like that. So there's something to it. And there's just different theories about beings of light. I mean, it seems like they're deceased loved ones, maybe. But I know Artie Six Killer Clark, she has some good books called Sky People and Encounters with Native American Star People stories. And in it, there's this race of light beings that are supposedly extraterrestrial, and they put a handprint in the desert, like some native kind of glyph or something. And she
Uh-huh.
claimed they were supposed to come back to help humanity. So there's just different weird ways to look at it. I know shamans say luminous beings of light and stuff like that. But I've definitely, one time I remember, same street, Bermuda Street, sitting Indian style in the driveway, and I saw one of those beings of light just fly through the sky like something out of a comic book. It just flew through the sky. You can see its legs and arms. It's almost like a superhero just flying through the sky, but in a modern, normal, boring world. It was just
Jeff,
weird.
you got the sight, man. Oh my gosh. You got the sight more than most people. Wow. That's crazy.
I think
You can
sometimes
see. Whew.
sometimes I think maybe it's slowed down a little or something's happened and I need to, maybe recenter myself to get it back or something like that. But it kind of, I call those my Goldie Oldie sightings, and I'd like to have more Goldie Oldies for sure. Those are the best. Those are the ones you don't
Oh,
forget. You don't forget for sure.
yeah, I'm with you for sure.
And I know you talk about cryptozoology in your habitation sites, which is land you own. You've seen Bigfoots there, but is there any other kind of cryptids you've seen, or what are some of those experiences where you've seen them?
Yeah, it's so interesting because before I had this land a long time before I built my house on this land. So I would come out and explore and take pictures. And Wayne and Stacy have been here too. We had when Wayne and Stacy were here, we actually had a really weird experience where we were looking through the camera and this white cross rose out of the woods, and we actually have it on film. It was the craziest, weirdest thing. I have no idea what that was about, but so we have really good footage here. It's always been really magical, and it's at the base of a mountain in North Carolina called Hanging Rock, which is a quartzite mountain. So my house is basically built on 4 acres of quartz. So I think that's partly why we get so much activity here because everybody knows. Well, I think everybody knows. Quartz opens portals. It has a high frequency. A lot of beings are attracted to that. But definitely the dogmen travel, with the Bigfoot. I believe a lot of times you're going to find those two beings running together. So we have a lot of those. Like I told you, I have the little people. I've seen. I just got my first picture on my security camera of a gnome or troll. I'll send it to you and see what you think it is.
Yeah,
I used to. I have a video about 5 years back at a house of a troll playing hide and seek with me. He woke me up in the middle of the night with some kind of mind to mind thing, and I kind of sleptwalked to the front door and took film of him peeking behind the garden pole and playing some weird psycho game of hide and seek. And I was like, I'm going back to bed. This is super creepy. I find the trolls a little, I don't know if it's their appearance, but they're kind of creepy to me. What else have we seen here? Oh, and so my daughter told me, the one that sees like you, really, really well. She said, Mom, there's an ancient cat and it's not necessarily good. And I think I just got a picture a couple weeks ago of it. I can send that to you too. But it kind of prowls around. It kind of passes through and then passes through. It doesn't really live here. But I have all sorts of structures. I have about 20 structures, and new ones appearing all the time. The typical structures you see with the bends and the, crosses and the teepees.
yeah.
We have a lot of beans. I don't know, just like you see a lot of beans that you don't know what they are. I see a lot of beans I don't know what they are, just to be honest with you.
Well, it's interesting you say troll because I know there are goblins and trolls and stuff, and the fays and stuff, and a lot of those kind of seem kind of like grays or something. Like a goblin could
That's
be
a
a
good
gray
point.
alien and things like that. It's just
Good point.
interesting how these beings have been around in different cultures for so long, and it could be the same beings that you would think are aliens now or fae, in Ireland or
I
whatever.
didn't even think about that actually. Hmm.
I know some ufologists have brought up stuff like that, and things like that, like the fairy mark and stuff like that. Like some of the fairy phenomenon is very similar to UFO phenomenon now. Very similar for sure. There's some similarities, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And then of course, like Wham, I have a lot of ghosts. I'm just so used to it. A lot of shadow people. A lot of weird crawly little beings in the house. Yeah, lots of weird stuff here.
Well, what do you do to center yourself with all this stuff? I mean, is there certain techniques you use with your energy? Like, let's say something's parasitical or something that you don't want to
Oh,
feel.
that's
What do
good.
you do?
That's a good question. Yeah. So, well, I kind of have a little bit of a ritual, and I've experimented with a lot of stuff. So a lot of people burn sage. And I did a video about this. I think black sage has a higher frequency than just sage. So if I burn sage, I'm going to burn black sage. But I get up every morning, not every morning, but I try to. And I usually burn either dragon's blood resin or frankincense resin, because both of those have a really high purification kind of like frequency. And at least temporarily, I start out with a house fairly clean. From the night, what might have came in while I was sleeping, I kind of want to drive it out. I have a lot of, I make organite. I have a lot of organite, which I feel really kind of grounds, at least the organite I have seems to kind of like ground my energy, as well as provide a measure of protection. I really, with our technology, we're able to scan land and homes. And so actually, I was just working in my bedroom the other day. It was like, open the windows, let fresh air in. Like, it's the simple things. We always think we have to do these really magical things, but it's simple things like stale air, or smoky air, like from cigarette smoke, or like a kitchen fire. That's going to attract lower level beings. You're not going to have light beings come in and say, let me hang out in your cigarette smoke and your, burnt steak. I mean, come on, these are light beings. They want like high frequency. So a lot, all that stuff about feng shuiing your house and making sure the energy flows, getting rid of junk. People don't realize that every single item in your home, every single item, every single pen, every single piece of paper, every single magazine, every single piece of junk, and whether it's old, whether it's new, it all has a frequency. And so, one of the things, I try to do is keep my home, I'm still working on it, is I try to live very, minimalism. Like in my bedroom, the only thing in my bedroom is a bed. I don't have dressers. I don't have junk. You know what happens when you have dressers, don't you, Jeffrey? You fill them up with junk. When you have nightstands and dressers, I would love to go in someone's home that had an empty nightstand or an empty dresser. It's not going to happen. The bigger the house you get, the more you fill your closets, the more you fill your basement. It's just like the nature of things. But we encourage the opposite. We encourage, like minimalism, keep your house clean, keep your house mold free. Mold is actually sentient black goo. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's like its own thing, but it's related to the whole black. I don't know if you ever talked to anyone about the AI and the black goo and all that, but mold is a member of that AI group. So, and we're not just talking black mold where they condemn your house. We're talking all types of mold. So we find that a lot of people are living in moldy houses, and they wonder why their nose runs, and they wonder why they're sick, and they wonder why they have, weird, bad, negative spiritual experiences. So it's, looking at the land, it's looking at the home, it's keeping your energy field clear. It's I use a lot of essential oils on my body before I go to bed. I clean with essential oils. Again, negative beings don't like high frequency things. They don't like usually clean places. Why do you think when you go in you've been in haunted places, Jeffrey? Most haunted places aren't super bright and super clean, and they don't feel super bright and super clean. Although I always say you'll find just as many spirits in your local Walmart as you will in a haunted house, and probably more. So there is some, I think, myths about, where ghosts and, lower vibrational beings are. But those are just some things, plants, living things. Plants are living sentient beings that attract more positive beings. I have a lot of plants. There's a lot of things you can do to, attract more positive beings and keep the negative beings at bay. Animals, most animals, are very high vibrational and older souls, and they'll watch your back if you keep things out too.
Dogs especially.
Sure. Dogs. People think cats are higher vibrational than dogs. Dogs are higher vibrational than cats, though. And I've had both, so I'm not biased.
What about mini pigs?
Highest vibrational at all? No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
They seem like mini pigs to me. Seem like tricksters that are just trying to mess with you somehow.
Maybe you have a prankster in your pig. A prankster in your pig.
Maybe something attached to it, or I don't know. Like it does stuff
maybe you do.
It was one of the things that's annoying us. Sometimes it will pee on the floor. And then for a while, it didn't do it at all. But sometimes it seems like when it gets upset for a particular reason, because you didn't feed it, or we feed it all the time, but it wants to eat every second. But it seems like it does revenge stuff. Like the other day, I was sitting here in my socks working, and suddenly I feel something wet on my socks. It peed at my feet on purpose to get even with me. Like it's vindictive. It's like a horror movie, this thing. I try to, see the positive, but sometimes it drives me nuts. It really does. It drives me crazy. Christina loves it though, so I'm not gonna throw it in the lake. Like a biblical. I'm like, there's a reason it's in the Bible with that story, with the over the cliff.
How big
I don't know.
Jeffrey, how big is it?
It's about a few feet.
Is it?
How big is it? 1.5 feet. It's growing.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's not a mini pig.
It could be, it's considered a mini pig, but it's going to get bigger, and maybe like a medium dog or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it just screams like it says mama.
It says
like
mama?
Mama, mama.
Oh,
like it
wow.
does it. Even the ladies at Jeffers who have them, there's a pet store, and all these ladies love mini pigs, and they're like just going crazy how cute they are. But hers does it too. It somehow when they make their noise, it does sound like it's saying mama. I don't know if that's really what it's doing, but it sure sounds close. That's for sure. It don't say dada. Let's just put it that way. Its name's Elvira, after Mistress of the Dark, Elvira.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It's a real pain in the ass, but
I'm trying to think if you're selling me on a mini pig or you're not selling me on a mini pig.
Don't get one.
Okay.
There's a guy on YouTube. There's a guy on YouTube. He says, "Don't get one," but he loves them. But I'm trying to love it, but it can be difficult for sure. And I don't know how it's going to be at my mom's there. That's going to be.
How's it going to be? Yeah, how's it going to be in your new in your mobile home?
Well, we're getting an RV, but at my mom's I have a room, but it's kind of cramped there. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I'm going to have to put it on the roof or something. Tie it to the roof. Put a cage on the roof. I don't know. It'll have to be in a cage because it cannot mess up stuff.
Oh, poor baby.
I think it just needs to be outside more. Maybe not all the time, but a little balance.
Yeah, like an in-and-out pig, like an in-and-out dog.
Yes. The lady I knew had a pet door, so something like that, or its own little area. And it can come in sometimes, and then sometimes it can be outside. I think that would be better. Right now, there's no fence here, so it tries to run off, so it's hard to, let it go outside, which it does go outside. What's so weird is it will totally poop outside. It will not poop in the house.
That's really good.
Or in the box, but for some reason, it don't care about the pee-pee. So it's like, well, you can hold your poop but not your pee. There's something fishy here.
Yeah, that's a little
something trickster.
Like
you can do the no poop, but you can't no pee. Right. But don't get one. But
yeah, I think you've kind of talked me out of it. To be honest,
it's like a mad rabbit hell baby. Some guy at Walmart was getting rid of them. It's probably going to grow to be 500 pounds.
I heard something about some people advertise them as mini pigs and then they end up with a 500-pound pig.
There are horror stories like that. I don't think this will be the case with this one.
Good.
I've seen some of those horror story videos on YouTube about that. Like
because
these people
of course
have
all baby pigs are mini,
Yeah. These people, this gay couple, these dudes had like this 1,000-pound pig living in their house. They thought was a mini pig.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious.
It was pretty funny, but kind of. I mean, they loved it, but it was huge.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's like big as a table.
That's crazy.
It's on YouTube. Look up mini.
It's like having a pony living in your house, almost.
It's too much. So you have a book that came out with The Secret to Everything or something like that?
Yeah. I think last year I wrote a book on the immune system, and then I have old books on manifestation that I don't recommend anybody read actually, because I wrote it like, you change after 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Like what I wrote about 10 years ago, I should take them down because some of it's true, but I don't agree with all of it. I should probably just write a new book. That's what I should do.
Yeah, I need to write more. It's been a long time. It's hard, especially when you have crazy stuff going on all the time. But maybe one year. But I have 14 on my Amazon, but just being in books and intros and stuff. And
You do? Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
a lot of them are actually my books with Andrew Colvin, and some of them are like, a chapter in a book or something.
That's smart to write with other people. I need to do that. I can think of some people. Yeah, that's smart, actually.
I'm in this Kim Carlsberg book that's got all these encounters. That's like a nice hardcover book that has some of my stories.
What's it called?
Let me look
What's
it
it
up.
called?
I'll look it up real quick.
Okay. I love reading other people's stories because, like you said, it helps you remember your own. Sometimes I forget all the things I've done and experienced until somebody else tells their story,
Yeah, it awakens you, kind of makes you remember stuff that otherwise wouldn't remember. I'm looking it up. It'll just take a minute, mate.
That's fine. I was just curious. I guess I could look it up. I'm lazy.
Oh, here it is. The Art of Close Encounters. The Art of by Kim Carlsberg. It may be one of those, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those weird ones that got kind of expensive over the years for some dumb reason. I hate when that happens.
Oh, probably because it had like limited printing, and I don't know, makes it go up.
Yeah, it's like $115 now. That's crazy.
Well, maybe I won't be buying that.
Yeah. Maybe there's a.
I don't like you that much, Jeffrey.
I know, right? 100. It's funny because I saw that RD6 Killer Clark. She's got a good Native American Star People Encounters book, and it's crazy price like that. Like I hate when that happens. It sucks. It sucks. It definitely sucks. But yeah, it's fun to write books if you can do it, or if you're Nick Redfern and can pump out one every 3 months. For sure. So Wade lives near you. His name's Wade C. Wilson, right?
Wayne, like
Wayne.
Wade.
Okay.
Yeah, he lives about 45 minutes away from me, and we've done quite a few investigations together.
I'll get him on sometime.
He has great pictures. He has some. I have to say, he has, even more than his Bigfoot pictures, he has some of the best dogman pictures I've ever seen in my life. I have good ones, but his are better. I think some of my Bigfoot are better than his, but he has some of the best dogman photos. Seriously, like.
If you want to see a good Bigfoot channel on YouTube that'll amaze you, it's called Breaking Bigfoot. Like Breaking Bigfoot.
Oh, okay.
It's from the guy from the show Breaking Bad. He was on Breaking Bad, and he's also on that Better Call Saul spinoff show. But he has a whole channel called Breaking Bigfoot, and I swear he gets crazy stuff that's like you can't believe how good it is. It's really good. Like you can see their noses and mouths and stuff, and this dude's an actor that's been in all kinds of different movies.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Not to be faking anything or making anything
up.
How
did he get into it? Did he tell you like how he got into it? Do you remember?
Just kind of was out there and saw him,
so he has the sight. He can see it. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
But somehow he can enhance it on this computer, and he does just a really good job. And he gets UFO stuff too. The weirdest thing he said, which this isn't that weird, but it just kind of, I guess, shocked me that this actor said this. He was aboard of a UFO, and he just said it out of the blue, and I had to do a double check and say, what did you say? But he also said that after that, Robert Bigelow, space tyrant billionaire, contacted him and said next time he's on a UFO to draw the propulsion systems, which I don't think he ever did that for Robert Bigelow, but it's just a weird story about Robert Bigelow contacting this dude trying to,
kind of a jerk. Gosh, that's kind of a jerk.
Robert Bigelow's creepy.
He's super creepy. I don't even know if he's human. He's like AI clone personality. He's weird. Yeah.
I know Skinwalker Ranch, he owned that. He infiltrated MUFON and owned that for a while, and just hoard stuff. Like, there's supposedly his son passed away, and he went like on this kooky afterlife evidence alien thing, I guess from the trauma or whatever. I don't know how true this stuff is. It's just rumors I
Kind of
hear.
makes sense.
But I
Makes
also
sense.
heard something happened to his wife. She passed away. We were talking about that on an episode, and it may have been from something paranormal that followed him back. But one of the weirdest things I know about him is a long time ago, Chase Kowetsky, who was on the star team of MUFON,
Hmm.
and I haven't spoke to her in a while, but she used to have to report to Robert Bigelow. He would go out to UFO crash sites for MUFON, and they would go out there. They were called the Star Team, and they had to report to him. He was the supervisor, and they were supposedly
Really?
going out to weird, supposed crashes. And she told me this stuff, and she really did work for them and was on the Star Team. And he had at one time bought MUFON, and then somehow he doesn't own it anymore. MUFON's always been creepy. I mean, the guy
You know
Jan,
what? I
he,
knew like 10 years ago, there were a bunch of people being knocked off, and I'm not going to say their names because I don't have their permission, but there's some pretty prolific people in the Bigfoot movement that got out of MUFON and started going the Bigfoot direction because their friends were killed being involved with that organization.
wouldn't surprise me. I know recently Jan, like one of the main MUFON dudes, the main dude, he got caught for underage kid crap. Crazy, sick stuff like that. It was all
Wow.
news circuits and stuff, like Stan Romanek stuff. That's another creepy one that I've interviewed before, but later he got caught with pedo
Oh my
stuff on his
gosh.
computer. He went to prison. So, and of course, he claimed he was set up, which I don't know if I believe that or not.
I
But
mean,
he
I
was
do
all,
believe people can be set up for sure, but I don't
oh,
think
me too.
100% of the people that say
Yeah,
that
I
are
just
shit,
don't.
you
I
know?
think that can be set up, but I just don't think. I don't trust him. I caught him doing something bad on a show once, and
Really?
I used to interview him and thought there was some truth to what he was saying, but when
Sure.
he got caught doing this, got caught with that, obviously you're like, well, everything he says is probably full of it. He's into
Mhm.
kids, gross. But anyway, he would. Someone caught him on. This is the guy that was on, David Letterman with the peeking alien at the window footage.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
Dan Romanek. Well, someone was videoing him for a radio show, and they caught him throwing something in the room and trying to say aliens or whatever were there with him, but
Oh my
somehow
God.
he didn't know the camera could see his hands, so he would throw something and try to blame it on aliens, but at this particular time he didn't realize his hands got caught throwing it. So he got busted, and this is on YouTube. Well, one time he did that on my show, but I didn't get his hands doing it. But he threw something and
Weird.
said it was aliens. Well, someone actually caught him throwing it when he was claiming it was like something, coming at, from an alien or whatever. He was doing it.
I'm going to try that sometime. That's clever.
Yeah, let me throw aliens, and then you get
Oh
caught
my gosh. That's so
throwing it.
dumb. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry. Oh my
The
God.
video's pretty disgusting, but throw that
I
in with
guess
a
that's why, but you see, I don't like people like that because, yes, baby. I don't like people like that because then that's why everybody just says hoaxer, hoaxer, hoaxer to everybody because there are hoaxers. You know what I mean? They make it harder for the rest of us that aren't trying to hoax anybody.
And that's like exopolitics, which I don't really. A lot of that seems.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting conversation.
Seems kooky. A lot of it seems really kooky. Like I just saw something from Michael Salla that claimed Klaus Schwab, some George Soros type guy, and somebody else. They went to go meet in Antarctica to meet these particular aliens that run the show, but when they got there, they got ambushed by the good aliens, and now they join the good alien side. It's like, are people just making this crap up out of out of nowhere? Like, how would you know that? Were you in Antarctica? I mean, maybe there is truth to it, but some of it I'm skeptical of for sure. Like, supposedly these Illuminati type cabal people went to Antarctica to meet their masters, but
I
it turned
did
out
see that.
the
I
good
did see
aliens are
that.
there, and now
I
they're
did
with the
see
good
that.
aliens. I mean, it sounds nice, but I don't know. I just don't believe it really.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of crap out there, So you don't know what to believe.
And I think
Uh,
there's a lot of deliberate misinformation. So I think people go on shows like yours and other shows and write books, and I think they deliberately go not with intent to hoax, but deliberately with intent to mislead.
yeah, maybe it's like some government weird thing, or maybe they're just crazy, or whatever, or just dumb and think they're going to make money or something, or whatever. I'm
Yeah,
sure there are
maybe.
people like that. I don't know. You're a rare being to make a lot of money doing this. Maybe like
No,
a.
I don't make a,
I know.
I
I
don't
know
make
that.
money.
Exactly. Me neither. That's what I'm saying. So there are a few like maybe Nick Pope or Richard Dolan or something,
Oh, I
something
agree,
like
but they
that.
make me suspicious. I mean, the people that make a lot of money actually make me suspicious. Like Michael Sala, I think he makes a decent amount of money, and he also
Yeah.
looks super creepy. Like he has enough money to. I'm a little snarky. I just have to say that. But I think he looks like he has enough money to have plastic surgery too. So that's a lot of money. That stuff isn't cheap.
Yeah.
So he
They just
looks
and
weird.
Alfred Weber's another one that's kind of creepy. That I've had him in a long time ago. I told them that I didn't. Alfred Weber and Andrew Basago. I told them that I didn't believe that Obama time jumped to Mars, or something. And the first thing they said to me was, "I work for the cabal Satanists," just because I don't think
Oh,
Obama
that's because you don't
went to
agree with their
Mars.
point of view or what they're saying. They accused you of that.
Yeah, I'm a Satanist just because I don't think Obama time jumped to Mars.
That's dumb that they said that.
Maybe he did, but I don't know. That's kind of
I guess you know what I just think we need to be more in allowance of others' beliefs. It doesn't mean we have to change
yeah,
ours, but I think we need to allow people to believe or not believe or think what they want to think. Like I think everybody's too busy trying to control everybody else and convince them. It's dumb. It's just dumb. And you run into this a lot in the paranormal, the UFO, the conspiracy, the secret space, where there's so much infighting and so much backstabbing, and it's just ridiculous. Like, let someone have an opinion and then let someone else have an opposite opinion, because I think we need to come together and have those conversations, even if they're opposite, because the truth is somewhere in between, usually.
yeah. And I know Wham's familiar with this case, that Emma Woods case. That was kind of weird. Who was that guy? Wham David, or no, the guy that was doing the hypnosis and like make her dress up in weird stuff or something weird. That
Oh
was
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
that was a big to
It was
do.
it was some kind of it was sort of like BDSM kink sort of disguised disguised as paranormal stuff or vice versa or something. It was very
This
strange.
dude was hypnotizing this lady, and he was a pervert at the same time and make her do
Yeah.
weird stuff. And it was a big UFO case. Emma Woods, look it up sometime. You'll
Oh,
see
no,
all kinds of crazy
that is
crazy
so
things. But
weird.
I don't.
Oh,
I know it got really weird. That's what scares me about hypnotizing. I don't want anybody.
no, you know what they say. I mean, really, you are putting your mind and your body and your spirit under someone else's control. You do have to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. But look up Emma Woods
Yeah, I
hypnosis
wrote
or
it down.
alien
Yeah,
sometime. Yeah, you'll take a trip down weirdness for sure.
sounds
That used to be
crazy,
very
easy
popular
to
and discussed
explain.
by every radio show everywhere. Like it was a popular kind of weird thing for sure that happened. That was a big case situation. What was that guy's name again though? Dave? I don't remember. He has books called something. Emma Woods, and I forget who the hypnosis dude was. David sounds familiar. David Jacobs.
Okay.
That's it. He has some books about aliens that seem kind of fear based. That maybe some aliens are like that, but I know he did some weird stuff and got busted somehow. I don't even know if Emma Woods, is she still alive? I don't even know.
Interesting.
I heard about her in a long time. But remote viewing sounds interesting for sure. I wouldn't mind learning some more of that. I've had some experiences with it, just kind of like let my imagination roam, thinking about UFOs and what's inside them and different beings and seeing stuff in my head. But I didn't really know if it was like me really seeing something or just, my mind creating some kind of fiction. It's kind of like, the imagination, letting it run wild with that kind of stuff, which some might call sci-fi, but who knows? Maybe I was peeking in a ship,
Really
I don't know.
possible, for sure.
So, you have a Bigfoot that's in your house?
Oh, well, I mean, gosh, now I'm going to sound like totally crazy. To me, they're just like you and I talking. Like the relationship now that I have with them, which I would have never guessed, is very interactive, very visceral. They leave me gifts. I leave them gifts. I do the apples. They love apples. I do the whole feeding thing. If I don't feed them or I forget to feed them, I'll be laying in bed and they'll bang. They'll bang like right where my bedroom is on the house.
What do you feed them? Pancakes?
Mainly apples, because you don't want to, in the mountains of North Carolina, you don't want to be throwing out like any kind of like carbohydrates or anything like people do. I don't need bears up in here, you know what I'm saying? So I stick
I've heard
with
pancakes. I've heard people give Bigfoot
really?
pancakes.
For real?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Which I don't know if that's safe to do.
Well, I'm just saying you can attract. It was funny. One time I thought, this is kind of funny. And this is how we are. You have a certain thought in your head. So one night I'm like, oh, I thought they were eating like these apples I were putting out. And my security camera went off. And I'm like, oh, good. I'm going to catch them on the security camera eating my apples. No, it was a possum. I'm like, darn it. But I do know they do eat the apples. But just that night, it was one possum. And I mean, and probably I know the deer eat my apples too, but I mean, some of the places I put them, possum and deer can't get. But yeah, I basically have a relationship with them. It's like mind-to-mind communication. I get mad at them sometimes because they bend over trees to point to water, and there's places where they have their babies and they take down too many of my trees. I want privacy. I live in the middle of the woods because I want privacy. So I get mad at them when they take down too many trees. And I talk to them just like I talk to you,
I'll tell you my sad Stacy Brown story.
Oh gosh.
It was good that I hung out with Stacy Brown. I mean, we're friends, and he's been on the show, but he came to my house to do a documentary on something. He filmed it, and he said I was great and wanted me to do more stuff. But then something happened to the audio, like a technical error.
Okay.
So they couldn't use it. And that was my first experience ever with TV. And I've never had one before, but it was kind of sad, but I didn't blame anyone. Things happen, but it was just kind of, they filmed it and then I'm like, cool, I'm going to be in a documentary. And then they get it back and realize something was wrong with the mic and it didn't record. But it was still a cool experience, but that was my first TV experience. I haven't had another one. It kind of bummed me out, but I did hang out with Stacy and we smoked a doobie, so that was cool. But anyway, I know
one of his favorite activities.
yeah, he's told some weird UFO stories that have happened that, at first on the show, he didn't used to like talk about that stuff much, but he did have some weird ones that happened at some lake or something, but need to get him on again. He lives in this area. Him and his dad got that heat thermal video.
I forgot he lives down there.
Yeah. I hear there's a Skinwalker Ranch type place around here. I don't know where it is.
Really? I would love to know what that is.
Me too. If you ever hypnotize him, let me know. I haven't asked him, but I've heard rumor that there is something like that around here. Something. But I know him and his dad. I know his dad passed. God rest his soul. But they got that weird thermal video down here, and it looks like it's a Bigfoot, and it was on $1 Million Bigfoot Spike TV, and they won like $30,000 off that. I don't think they won the million or anything. I think they might have canceled that show or something, but they won it for research, $30,000, and it was this video, kind of like a weird caveman running through the woods, like something.
I saw that.
Yeah, that was a weird video. I mean, I think it was real, but it was definitely weird. It was like I don't know, I guess a Bigfoot, but it looked kind of like a caveman, but you could see it. It was a good video. But yeah,
Unfortunately, I haven't seen even what I consider good pictures of Bigfoot aren't maybe what other people would consider. I don't know. It's hard when you have this sight to see through other people's eyes because you only know what you see. You know what I mean, Jeffrey? You should know it.
yes, yes. Well, hopefully sometime I'll do some more TV stuff. It seems nerve wracking though. It's like I was up freaking out all night before it, and then it just makes you feel like you're gonna crawl out of your skin when the camera's looking at you. Maybe anxiety wise, it's not the best, but I've gotten used to this cam crap on here, and I hate doing it. But I don't hate it.
Did you
But
always do video on your show, or did you just start out with audio?
we started out with audio, and then StreamYard does video, so you kind of forced to do it. I know we're on YouTube and some other places, but we not all the time. The way my show started out at first is I was in this chat room, and people would type out questions to famous UFO celebrities with no audio, and they would respond back typing. And I had Stanton Friedman, William Burns from UFO Hunters,
Wow.
Burn, and that's how I was.
I love it. Oh wow.
And people were like, "You should do a podcast." So I was like, "No, I don't like to talk." But here we are, 13 years later. Now I can't shut up. So
You're great.
Hey,
You're great.
thank,
Awesome.
thank you. So I mean, when it comes to the state of the world and all this stuff, it seems like things are really dark and crazy. Everybody seems like they're going through something. Just things seem weird. I mean, what do you think's going on? I mean, what's going on?
I mean, pretty much what we see is what we get. I think I mean, I'm a personal believer in the Georgia Guidestones. I think they told us where they want to take us, and I think they're trying to steer us there. I don't think it's conspiracy. I think it's pretty black and white. I mean, you can't get any more black and white than carving it in frickin' stone. Hello.
Yeah,
So I think that's where they want to take us, But again, like I told you at the beginning of the show, we create our own reality. So I think we need to stop contributing to the negative timelines and start having a much more, I don't mean to be Pollyanna, believe me, if anybody knows me, they know I'm far from a Pollyanna, happy unicorns and bunny tails. But I do think we can contribute a more positive, higher vibrational point of view than all this gloom and doom and arguing about, the stick and arguing about the disease that we have to get the stick for and all that garbage. Like, let's just go on with our life. Like, eat healthy food, strengthen your immune system, be good to each other, spend time in nature, meditate, and just kind of like Wham said. She said she has her own little world and she's happy in it, and she does her own thing and she doesn't bother anybody. And I just think we all plug into what they're saying, and I think a lot of it's not true. I mean, to be honest with you.
I do bother people sometimes. I just don't care if I bother them.
You do bother people? How do you bother people?
I discomfort people occasionally. Sometimes my sheer existence pisses them off, and sometimes I like to poke people. And there are times when I can be disagreeable.
Okay. I love that you own that. That's awesome.
But I also don't care because there's room for everybody on the planet, and
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
It's kind of like a shaman that lives in the desert and he doesn't watch the news, or like one of those tribes that they find that doesn't have anything to do with society or technology. They're in their own world. You got to create your own world.
You do, but I think in doing that, I actually think the world, instead of being so up in everybody's business, and the whole Karen thing started with everybody telling everybody what to think, what to believe, and how to behave. We just need to kind of mind our own business and do our own thing, and steer it that way, and quit worrying about what everybody else is doing and what might be happening. And I mean, most of if we get really honest with ourselves, most of our own lives are not in order on some level, whether it's health or our bank accounts or our family or our house, or I mean, we all have chaos in our lives that we can direct our attention to. And as we get our own lives in order, I think the vibration of the whole, collective will rise. But we're too busy worrying about outside of our lives while our own lives are like kind of
Yeah.
spinning out and self-destructing. Kind of
And the
crazy. So
COVID
I
thing, I
just,
mean, yeah, and the COVID thing seemed like depopulation for sure. I mean, no doubt. Not gonna say what
I
caused
mean,
it or
I
how it
said,
started. I don't
yeah,
know, but it's
yep,
definitely
I agree.
depopulation for sure.
Yeah,
It's
I
been
said from
insane.
the beginning that's calling, Culling. I think it's a calling. And I think they've had many calling activities throughout history. I don't think it's the final one, and I don't think it's the only one. I mean, I drove from North Carolina to West Virginia a couple days ago, and there were chemtrails in, tic-tac-toe boards across the sky. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think that's anything beneficial they're dumping on us, So I just,
Yeah,
until we
you see a
stand up
lot
and
of that
say no
too.
more, it's going to keep happening. But I don't know. We've done okay. We're still here. We're talking. I don't know. It's not
Most
that bad.
definitely. Well, everybody say a prayer for our moving tomorrow. If I can just make it past that, hopefully the
And
anxiety will die down a little bit. Like there's a lot of crap that's got to be moved tomorrow. I'm just like, oh God. My
it'll be
brother's
over
coming to help.
soon.
There's a lot of lifting and just so much stuff. I'll be glad when we can just get past tomorrow and get that U-Haul back to where it goes, and that'll be a big move. And hopefully the anxiety will go down a little bit more. Hopefully, and there'll just be some other stuff to grab that'll be easy once you get the big furniture. The weirdest part is like still trying to like have computers and use them here while the furniture's gone and the bed's gone. Have to use like an air mattress and stuff. That's
I've
gonna be
done
the
that.
weird
I've
part.
sat on the floor and worked on a bare floor with nothing in the house. I've been there.
Yeah, that's going to be the crappy part for sure, but it'll be a big step tomorrow. So hopefully it's a safe journey and goes by fast and we don't stay up late freaking out from nerves and get to actually rest and then wake up at 9 a.m. and do the crap that must be done tomorrow.
Absolutely.
But it's been great having you on, Kimberly. And what's
Thank
your
you.
website? Is there anything you'd like to plug or anything?
I mean, just secrettoeverything.com, poke around there. You can, we offer scans on quantum technology and all sorts of things. There's a bunch of free stuff on there and a contact form if you want to get a hold of me. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Yeah, and send me some of those pictures. I love looking at
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of
thank
stuff.
you. I know you're gonna be busy, but in the next couple of days I'll try to get some together
Yeah,
and send
that would
it
be
to you.
great. I
Yeah.
love looking at that kind of stuff. I'd like to check them out. I'd like to get some more stuff like that. It's just a lot of times when these experiences happen, they're so fast. You don't even
No,
have your
very
phone
true.
anymore. So it's
Very
like you
true.
got to figure that part out.
Yep.
But we appreciate it so much, and just moving stuff, it just stresses you out. I feel exhausted, and then it's like I got to do tomorrow, so I'll make it. But it definitely makes you feel like, ugh, God,
Absolutely. Well,
body
thank you
aches.
for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks, Wham. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet
Thanks,
you.
Wham, and everybody. I hope you have a good Christmas. Watch out for Krampus. We saw that movie. I saw that movie again recently. My Michael Daughtery about Krampus. It's really good. If you haven't seen it, there's a naughty cut out. It's by the same guy that did Trick or Treat, which is a good one with that little baghead Sam that goes around with the little sucker. But it's called Krampus. It was really good. It's actually well done.
Krampus. Krampus.
Krampus. It's the naughty cut came out. But if you need a good
The naughty cut.
yeah, it's the naughty cut, but it's a good horror. It has Toni Collette in it, which is a good actress. It has a bunch of good people in it. But thanks so much, Kimberly. Thanks, Wham, and we'll be back January 7th. So Merry Christmas.
Holidays, everybody.
Watch out for Krampus. And
Yeah,
send
bye,
me
y'all. Thank you.
Good holidays.
all right, take care, and we'll see you January 7th. Time to go move crap, even now. Good night, everybody.
Good night.